Hello, welcome to another episode of Namtaro Talks. Today's episode will be pretty fun, and I've been looking forward to doing this one for a while. As you know, I record a fair amount of episodes and backlog them and release them once a week. The release of this one, it was kind of on purpose. I am very sure by the time I release this, it'll be in the early or middle of September. Therefore, this episode will not cover me going to their concert yet, which is in the middle of September. Yes, you already saw the title. This episode is about my favorite rock band, Linkin Park. Looking back, it's pretty amazing because I've liked this band for so much, for so long, and I am very sure I am not the only one. There's many people who have grown up with Linkin Park, people all over the world who, it's like generations of Linkin Park fans, and they are so relatable too. It's funny, I read the book about them, and the author talks about the ambiguous me and you. And that's what most of their songs are about, because the songs could be a relationship between pretty much any dynamic. A romantic couple, a friendship, family. There were people who listened to Linkin Park when they were in elementary, middle, high school, and now they are grown adults with responsibilities. There are people who discovered Linkin Park when they were in, recently in college. Maybe Gen Z or even Gen Alpha who are discovering Linkin Park right now. So it's pretty interesting. You get a good mix of both crowds at their shows. They usually ask the question, is this your first Linkin Park show? Well, as of recent, it's quite amazing with how many hands show up or how many people cheer when they hear that question. Because the dynamic and the history, well, if you're a fan or if you are in the know, you kind of know. I honestly don't know how or when I started liking Linkin Park. I'm guessing that, well, I heard that name thrown around a lot in elementary school because my peers, they listened to Linkin Park. But of course, in my household, we couldn't really listen to American like top 40 pop radio of the current times. Yeah, I mean, I did not actively buy CDs or listen to the radio. I just heard it in passing or through several degrees of separation, and whenever they were played at elementary school, whether it's during the school events or talent shows where kids, they like the song so they perform to it. Of course, back then it's like the boy bands like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, and the pop artists like Britney Spears and Spice Girls, Christina Aguilera. But the one rock band that stood out was Linkin Park. Of course, there was like Limp Bizkit and Papa Roach and some other bands too. But yeah, like they heard the name Linkin Park thrown around a lot. Personally, I think the first music video I saw was for Crawling, which may have been the first song I heard too. I was like, what is this guy doing in the bathroom mirror and like screaming and yelling at the mirror? But then over time, I guess I got a little bit more agency and more permission to be exploratory. Not to mention my cousin in Vietnam. Well, at the time, it was easy to bootleg CDs. Yes, so he got us a bootleg copy of Linkin Park's first two albums, Hybrid Theory and Meteora. Yes, I'm sorry, Linkin Park. I pirated your first few CDs. I pirated your music. I mean, as an elementary school kid, I mean, you enjoyed it, but you can't really relate to it. It was only until middle school when you kind of dig slightly deeper into it. Like you look at the instrumentation and the lyrics and pretty much it's rebellious in its own nature. I know rock or punk well, Linkin Park's not really punk, but that type of music, it seems rebellious, well anyways, to a preteen or adolescent at the time. I mean, I wasn't really rebelling or anything, but I was just trying to learn more about myself, I think the first song that I really sat down, listened to, and got into it was Faint. I remember one of my friends from one of my extracurricular activities, I think he knew I was going through a hard time, and then he sent me I don't know if YouTube was on at the time yet. Yeah, it would have to be because I saw the music video somewhere. Yeah, I didn't see it on MTV, though it was probably on MTV, but I saw it on YouTube. Yeah, so it was like all these drums and all these like hard guitars, all this rapping, and like Chester like singing with his iconic voice, and the screaming. Woo, the screaming. That really got me. And you just listen to the lyrics. Honestly, there are so many Linkin Park songs that I pretty much damn near memorize, if anything. I'm not gonna list every single song or cite every single lyrics, but just a quick example from Faint. It's like, I am a little bit of loneliness, a little bit of disregard. And then you go to the chorus like, I can't feel the way I did before. Don't turn your back on me. I won't be ignored. And then you start screaming, now, hear me out now. You're gonna listen to me like it or not. It just felt quote unquote edgy, or an angsty. I know it's a bunch of like teen stuff, emo stuff. Oh, it's not a phase, mom. And I'll be honest, maybe one reason why I like them more is because I don't know about my dad's opinion on them, but I know my mom did not like them. Remember the metaphor she used. It sounds like people banging on trash cans. I'll be honest, the fact that my mom didn't like them made me like them even more. Yeah, that music, it was an ingrained part of my identity. It was my life. I scoured pretty much every song on the album. I watched every music video that they put out because this is in middle school now. I mean, I didn't get to consume or enjoy or appreciate any of this in elementary school. Though I admit there were many songs that, because they weren't necessarily singles or they didn't stand out, I only went back to them and looked at them a lot later. Yeah, I'm not saying every kid liked Linkin Park, but those who did, like, you could kind of relate with them. You could bond over it. You think they had good taste. And at the time, I knew they were popular and big and successful, but I did not realize to what extent. I know that they were a diamond selling artist, that they sold like 10 million albums at least, that they were pretty much beating out all like the boy bands and girl bands and like the pop singer. At that point, it wasn't really the chronology, I mean, I didn't know what was their first single, what was their first album, when was their first debut. Yeah, but so many songs I still remember to this day. Of course I can sing along, but some I might even be able to recite from memory. Not that I'm going to right now, but yeah, I'm literally looking through the discography right now with the Hybrid Theory. Many songs I like, I remember. Paper Cut, oh my god, it's like and then it's like it's like Chester's not really singing in that part to begin with. He's like, it's like a paranoia working over my back. It's like a whirlwind inside of my head. And then the part where he and Mike harmonize together and they sing like the sun goes down. Oh yeah. And of course, their first single was One Step Closer. Many other songs I liked on that first album, like Points of Authority. Oh, they still perform that song live at the few concerts I went to, which I'll talk about later. Crawling, I already talked about. By myself, I wasn't really into it, but it was like one of the craziest, screamiest that I've seen Chester be. Runaway was pretty good too, though apparently Chester didn't like that song. A Place for My Head, that wasn't really a single per se, but still very popular. They still performed that at live shows. And of course, maybe their biggest song, In the End. Oh, that is iconic. I mean, you hear the piano at the beginning of the song, that's like their standout, most recognizable song probably. I also like Pushing Me Away. Yeah, Meteora. Yeah, in the book it says that they felt like they needed to have like a relatively successful follow-up because they set the bar so high. Not that they wanted to push a little bit of creative boundaries, but not stray too far from it yet, unlike they would later in their career. But it all worked out regardless. Yeah, Don't Stay, Somewhere I Belong. I remember them playing that song at some guest speakers on presentation. He put it on the PowerPoint, and he put on the song Somewhere I Belong in that PowerPoint. Yeah, Lying From You, that was not really a single either, but that's still popular. That's still played at concerts. Hit the Floor, a lot of screaming in that too. Oh, Faint, can't forget that. Figure 9, that's an underrated song, which I personally liked myself. Nobody's Listening, that has that one Japanese flute. Oh, Numb, how can you forget Numb? That's another one of their biggest singles, one of their most iconic songs. I might be skipping ahead later, but at one of their later concerts, they just put on a microphone and a wreath, and they just played Numb. They did not sing it. The audience sang Numb for them. And of course, one of my favorite songs by them is Breaking the Habit. That one is not as guitar heavy, but I think it was because the lyrics, like, I don't know what's worth fighting for, why I had to scream, blah, 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 and I'm breaking the habit tonight. I even have a shirt from that music video, and it was I think their first animated music video, or anime style. Yeah, so I guess I was approaching my quote-unquote formative years, and I had those two albums to think about, to pretty much listen a whole bunch and listen to all the singles and watch all the music videos and think about it and talk about it and share it with my friends. Just pretty much milk the heck out of it. By then I gradually became more internet savvy, so I scoured the news for Linkin Park news as often as possible. I remember there was this one website called Linkin Park Association. At first I checked it every day because I knew, but then again I realized that was not very realistic, so I checked it every other day or every week or every 2 weeks. But oh my god, from 2003 to 2007, I was pretty much waiting for any Linkin Park news, any scrap, any morsel of Linkin Park goodness. Well, two things that happened around that time. One was their collaboration with Jay-Z for the album Collision Course, where they mashed up 5 of their songs with 5 of Jay-Z's songs. and then the most famous one being a Numb Encore. And I believe around this time was when they not really went their separate ways. No, 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 no. They never formally broke up, but they took a teeny break and did side projects. Yeah, the thing about Linkin Park is that they have a much more creative agency. They're not only musicians. They have a vision. They have an image that they want to follow. Like Mike Shinoda, he is not just the rapper or vocalist. He is also an artist. So he was in an art school before he got serious with Linkin Park. And Johan, the DJ, he's also a video producer, and he edited and produced many of their music videos. Yeah, but around this transitional phase, Chester, he had a band called Dead by Sunrise. Though, just because Chester was in it, I wasn't really enjoying the music from that band. I mean, you get Chester, but it's just not Linkin Park. It's like the feeling, the identity is just not there. I suppose the two main genres I kept an eye on at the time were, of course, rock and hip hop. And we already know Mike Shinoda, he had a hip hop background. Like, he grew up listening to hip hop, very influenced by hip hop. So he went along with his hip hop moniker, Fort Minor. And I remember trying to hold on to every news of that project coming out. Like, what would the track list be? And I liked the album art, which Mike drew himself. And who were the collaborators, and when would the first singles be out? And when these songs come out, you root for them. Like, you want to hear them on the radio. Back then, MTV had this countdown show called TRL, and you want the videos to like rank as high as possible. And back then, when the Billboard Hot 100 meant something, you want the songs to chart as high as possible also. Yeah, I remember the Fort Minor single, Petrified. It has semblance of Linkin Park, but it's truly Mike Shinoda, and it was a unique beat. It went pretty hard, but the song Remember the Name, oh, now that's iconic. I remember when he teased that song, he released snippets of each aspect of the song, like the drums, the snares, the strings one day, the verse one day, all separately, and then he eventually released a single and put them all together. I remember loving that song so much. I listened to it maybe at least 3 times a day, pretty much. It just felt so empowering. And you add all the percentages together, like 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and all the other ones. And you're like, wow, it really does equal 100%. Yeah, they released a 3rd single after that called Believe Me, which I thought was pretty good. It's not my favorite. But their 4th and last single of that album, Where'd You Go, featuring Holly Brooke, who later became the singer Skylar Grey. And that one was a bit more emotional, more somber, but I think that may have been their most popular, successful single of the album. And I mean, I was just grateful for these songs to come out. I was listening to them. I even bought their album. I forgot where I bought it from. Maybe it was from Fry's. I don't think it was Radio Shack. I didn't really buy albums from FYE. Maybe it was from Hot Topic. Yes, but then they released their next album, Minutes to Midnight. And I enjoyed that album. I mean, not the same way as I did the 2 previous albums, Hybrid Theory and Meteora. But you just take it for what it is. And you respect it. Many people did not really appreciate or agree with that at the time, because it went in a slightly different direction. The first 2 albums, they were pretty hard, pretty guitar heavy. Minutes to Midnight, they have a couple songs that are like that too, but there are some songs that they quote unquote held back a little bit, maybe a bit more somber, a bit more ballady, a bit more electronic. And just because I'm a fan, I mean, it doesn't mean I liked every single song on every single album that they ever released, but I liked the singles, and a few that still stood out with me, or of course Given Up. Oh my god, that is one of their hardest, craziest songs, but it's one of their darkest songs in my opinion. There was this one part where Chester screams for 17 seconds straight, and there's a couple of parts of swearing in this album too. I remember that was the first time they had the parental advisory label. Yeah, the first single from that album was What I've Done. Personally, I liked that music video. It showed various different scenes and aspects and cuts of human life, and they were filming in the desert. And I remember Chester had a mohawk at the time, and Mike had that long hair. That's another thing. Over the time, you get to see not just the hair change, but their styles change too. Like they kind of grow up, they wear different clothes, and they wear hats. But it's not just the appearances, the music style changed too. And as a macro perspective, you come to appreciate that more, because as of recording this, they have technically recorded 8 albums, well, 7 with Chester. I cannot imagine 7 straight Hybrid Theories and Meteoras. I'm very sure many people would. But personally, I like a little bit of variety, you know? I mean, many other artists out there, not just rock artists, but they're confined to the genre. Or if they leave the genre, they don't do the new genre as much justice, or the fans hate on them for leaving the genre. Personally, I think Linkin Park divulged or evolved from their genre a little bit, but deep down there was still the essence of their identity, still that creativity, that part of their identity that makes them Linkin Park. Yeah, Minutes to Midnight, I said Giving Up was cool. Leave Out All the Rest. Yeah, that was like a chiller song. I like the music video too. They're in a spaceship that I think was crashing or heading towards the sun. Bleed It Out. Not my favorite song, but they like that song. They end concerts with that song. Shadow of the Day is pretty chill also. An underrated song I like from Minutes to Midnight was called In Pieces. Yeah, the melody and the lyrics, they were fine, but there was one part with a guitar solo. Oh, I like a good guitar solo every now and then. And I can honestly say that I did grow up with Linkin Park because they released Minutes to Midnight when I was in high school. Their next album they released, I was in college. That being 1,000 Suns. Oh, you thought Minutes to Midnight was pretty wonky. This one, they went slightly different direction. They tried to make a conceptual concept storytelling album. Like pretty much the end of the world, you know, the apocalypse and whatnot. Did it stick the landing? Like, some say yes, some say no. I mean, I didn't super love it, but I see what they were going for, and I felt they did it justice. But unfortunately, the thing about the concept album is that there's only so many real songs on there. A lot of it is kind of like transitional tracks. Like the first 2 tracks on the album, they weren't like full songs, full singles. And there was literally one track that was about 17 seconds with some footsteps and some crickets or something. The first single for this album was The Catalyst, which was a very interesting choice for the single because it was 5 minutes long. And the lyrics are like, God bless us, everyone, we are broken people living under loaded guns. I was like, God? When did they start mentioning God? Yeah, but I like the synths at the beginning and at the end when they were singing like, lift me up, let me go. Yeah, I'm not going to actually sing on this podcast. I just do a quick example of each. And then they kind of tie it all together and then they taper it down. Unfortunately, that song is a bit too long, so they got to shorten a middle part of it for the live performances. Yes, but once again, they get even more electronic, more synthy, but the drums and the guitars are still there. Yeah, some parts are even memeable. Like in the song When They Come For Me, Mike is singing try to catch up, but then he sings it so fast everyone just hears catch up, so he makes that into like a joke. And the chorus is just Chester is like singing and then at the end he starts doing some kind of African chanting or yelling or something like that, and play some kind of African drums too. Waiting for the End, that's still a good song. It's not my favorite song, but I enjoy I like the music video for it because they were all kind of, it's like the image of the band members, but they were constellations, you know? Yeah, Wretches and Kings was pretty good too. It felt a little bit more hip-hoppy. Yeah, one underrated transitional track that I liked was Wisdom, Justice, and Love, where it has a Martin Luther King speech where he's speaking out against the Vietnam War, how we shouldn't be dropping a napalm on people. But then his voice, it's usually, towards the end, it becomes more roboticized. So it's like there's a Daft Punk voice. It's like cannot be reconciled with wisdom, justice, and love. And they repeat that several times. And with it being a concept album, each track leads into the other. So after that robot voice, it leads into one of my next favorite songs by them, being Iridescent. Because before Linkin Park songs, there's the ambiguous you and me and human relationships and whatnot. But this is more of a conceptual album. So it is a bit introspective with the chorus. But it's also Mike, he's singing and he's describing a setting. You know, how often do you sing and describe a setting? Like you're standing in the wake of devastation, you're waiting on the edge of the unknown, the cataclysm raining down, stuff like that. And then Chester sings, do you feel cold and lost in desperation? You give up hope, but failure is all you know. I mean, you built up hope. And remember all the sadness and frustration and let it go. Yeah, I'm pretty much just speed running through some of the lyrics. But you can kind of see the meaning, the deepness, the poetry behind it, you know? Like not just anyone can come up with these lyrics, and not just anyone can do words and lyrics like this justice without being too preachy or cheesy or seem like a try-hard. And of course, at that time, YouTube was more prominent, so I get to watch their YouTube channel, which had a series called Linkin Park TV. And one behind the scenes scene I love about that song Iridescent is they do gang vocals. So it's literally all the members of the band like crowding around a microphone and singing the chorus together and singing "Let It Go." It's like the guitarist is singing, the bassist is singing, the drummer is singing. It just feels so cohesive, you know, like they feel so united as a band. And last but not least, the last song of that album, The Messenger. It's literally just a stripped down acoustic guitar song. And though Chester does strain his voice a little bit in that song, he sings, "When life leaves us blind, love keeps us kind." So it pretty much wraps up the album. It's like with all the devastation and cataclysmic apocalypse, whatever, it's the aftermath, and you just reflect upon the human condition. Which brings up into their next album, Living Things. Though it was a little wonky because they just did a concept album that told a giant story and tied everything together. It's back to separate songs now. But I'm not complaining. I was just happy to have new Linkin Park songs. The standout lead single of this new album was Burn It Down. And apparently, you begin to see some Linkin Park songs serve as singles for the Transformer movie. They even used some clips and footage from the movies into the music videos. In the previous album, they used parts of Iridescent, though they made it a bit more poppy, kind of. And Burn It Down was their lead single for one of the Transformers movies. It's a solid song, not my favorite song either. As a matter of fact, a lot of the songs on this album, they were good, but nothing really stood out for me. But I still listen to them, I still like them, I still sung along with them. Lost in the Echo, In My Remains, Lies, Greed, Misery, I'll Be Gone, Victimized, Roads Untraveled. The song Powerless was served as a single for the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter movie for some reason. But I would say my favorite song from this album was Castle of Glass. I think the music video also sold me onto it too, because I think it was promoting some kind of first-person shooter military video game. So it had some army soldiers coming home delivering the news to a young boy. He just reflects upon it, and then eventually he grows up to be an army soldier also. I like the music video because there's a scene where Chester, he's like holding a piece of glass in the middle of the air, you know, and then the piece of glass, it just flies away. And they did the behind the scenes, how they have some kind of fake piece of glass and like have the green screen, but how it all reflects into the music video itself. And they performed that song at the Spike Video Game Music Awards. Yes, that was such a thing back then. But at the last chorus, like all of them at least 4 of them went up to microphones and just sang together. And I still remember that scene. Oh yeah, backtracking a little bit, but there was one Linkin Park performance I liked. It was at the Grammy, when their song "A Numb Encore" with Jay-Z was popular at the time. So they performed that, and then they led into the song "Yesterday" by the Beatles, and then Paul McCartney of the Beatles came out and sang it with them. I mean, how iconic does that get, you know? Also, can't forget a few features and side projects and side songs. There was the song "We Made It," where it was Busta Rhymes featuring Linkin Park, where Chester sings the verse, "Together we made it when our backs was against the wall." And they made an EDM song with Steve Aoki, "A Light That Never Comes." I mean, they have electronic elements in their discography, so you could kind of see the EDM or crossover transition happen a little bit. But at the end of the day, they're still a rock band. But yeah, at that time, people were getting more internet savvy, so people were remixing Linkin Park songs. Personally, I did not watch many of the anime AMVs, but those featured a lot of Linkin Park songs also. And I can't talk about Linkin Park without talking about Linkin Park concert. I remember my first Linkin Park concert was in 2012. That was when I get to wear my second Linkin Park shirt. The first one, oh my god, I remember I was in middle school or high school, one of those, but I really, really wanted a Linkin Park shirt. I was going to Hot Topic and looking for a Linkin Park shirt every time I got the one chance to go to the mall, but they never had it. They either ran out or they just didn't have it straight up. Like Linkin Park was not popular enough for them. But eventually they did. However, that shirt was an extra large. But I was just grateful to have a shirt. I forked over $20-25 for it. And I just let it hang loose around my scrawny frame. But I rocked it everywhere. Though I know there is one picture where I met some family friends in Vietnam, and we went out and we took a picture together, and I was wearing that shirt. It was pretty much like a robe. It's like an ao pretty much. It was pretty big on me. It's okay. Eventually, I got a more fitting shirt, more my size, and I wore that shirt to my first Linkin Park concert. That was with a close friend of mine who was also a huge Linkin Park fan. Yeah, I remember us blasting songs and listening to them on the way there and on the way back. I don't know if it was his first concert. It was mine for sure. That's the thing about Linkin Park. It's such a bonding experience. Like I met another friend in undergrad who was a huge fan of Linkin Park. Yeah, I have a wife now, but my first girlfriend, we bonded over Linkin Park, you know? Though she went to the Linkin Park concert at the time, I didn't. But she did the next best thing. I mean, she called me while she was at the concert and just like held the phone up to the concert. And she says, yeah, just like stay online, listen as long as you want, and just hang out whenever. Which I did, and I listened for about 15 minutes. But I mean, it's not the same as going to the concert itself. Yeah, but the first concert, we got pretty good seats. I hear the singles. I see the stage production. I see all the artists live. I see all the band members live. I sing along with all the songs. There's a lot of recordings of the songs from those concerts too. Yeah, you kind of infer there's at least 2 Linkin Park concerts I've been to, with the upcoming third one. Personally, I think the videos from the first one was better than the second one because I had better seats and a better phone camera. Yes, but it was iconic, and I find myself going back and rewatching it over and over again, even with my crappy phone camera quality. And yes, when I record videos at concerts, I sing along so you can hear me sing on the concerts. Well, it's a thing I do. I mean, I'm not really ashamed of it or anything. And hey, all these videos are on this channel. So if you scroll back, I don't know, 12 years or longer, you can probably find those videos. Though they are very grainy and seem like they filmed with a potato. In my second Linkin Park concert I went to when I was in grad school at the time. Yes, I know, I probably should have taken my grad school education a bit more seriously, or else I wouldn't have known about the repercussions later. But hey, it was Linkin Park. So I spent that weekend and drove out of town, meet up with the same friend who went to the first concert with me. Yes, and we enjoyed that second concert also. I believe by then their next album had already been released, with it being The Hunting Party, and they said this was them returning to more of their rock roots and try to be a bit more heavy. Their first single was another long one. It was called Guilty All the Same, and it's like a 1.5 minute guitar intro, a little bit of thrashy, and this one featured a lot more artists. There was I mean, I don't into hip hop as much, or don't know as much about it, but there was a prominent rapper named Rakim, and he was featured on that song. Yes, another thing you learn about me is that I worked at a pho restaurant, and they were pretty generous, so they let us pick our own playlists and music, and I played that song in addition to other Linkin Park songs. And the boss was cool with it. A couple of other standout songs from that album was Rebellion, A Line in the Sand, and one of my personal favorite Linkin Park songs, Final Masquerade. Yeah, so and during that time, in between Linkin Park album cycles, I was going through grad school, and there was about another 3-year break, and then they released the song Heavy for their upcoming album, One More Light, a few years later, and people were like, what the heck is this? The song's called Heavy, but it's not that heavy, and it sounded a bit mopey or whiny or pretty depressed. Unfortunately, sentiment for that that album was not the best. They called it too poppy, or it strayed too far from them. It had a bunch of random features. But the thing about Linkin Park is that even if I'm not feeling too much of their stuff, I still find some things I like about it, and I respect it, you know. It's not like they're betraying their fans or take their fans for granted or anything. I think that album, they said they went a different direction, because usually they write the music before they put in the lyrics. But for this one, they did it the reverse, opposite way around. But unfortunately for this one, it was a bit more of a personal album for Chester, the main singer. He put his heart and soul into it a bit more, so it hits more home from him. And I'm not saying it was because of the performance of this album, but due to a culmination of many other things from his past and other things going on in his life, not to mention the passing of one of his close friends. Yeah, the Linkin Park world and I were shocked when we found out about the suicide of Chester Bennington. I remember I was at my internship at the time. I don't know how I heard the news. I don't remember if we had a TV at the internship or on the radio, but it was literally it was on my mind like the rest of the day. I remember after my shift at the internship, I called my friend, the Linkin Park fan, who I went to the concerts with, and we just talked about it for an hour. what Linkin Park meant to us and what does it mean and what's going to happen. And of course, I was at my internship at the time, so I couldn't go to any of the tributes or whatnot. But it made a national news, and you see gatherings all over the world of people getting together, mourning and singing, and cover bands performing. It made me realize how big of a global outreach and how personal of a band they are, that they could impact millions, maybe tens or even hundreds of millions of people, like worldwide from all walks of life in countries that don't speak English as much, but they still sing along to the lyrics, they still relate to the lyrics and the melodies and the verses. That relatability, that appeal, it's still there. And of course, the tribute concert in LA about 3 months after the tragic news. I mean, I was in grad school, so I couldn't attend it, but I watched the entire live stream of it, and it was like so many guests, so many friends, so many singers, so many songs performed of their discography. It just felt so uniting. I mean, I can't speak for the band members, but life moves on, and they gotta figure it out on their own. And my life went on too, and they find ways to cope. They make music on the side. They have their own creative projects on the side. But you already know the recent news with them releasing a countdown clock, which started from 100 hours. Then it went down, and then after it went down, it went back up, and people are like, "What's going on?" Then it went up to 9 hours and 5 minutes. Then you see that there was going to be a live stream event on the official YouTube channel on that date, September 5th, 2024. Then it's their big announcements. It's their return with a new singer, a new drummer, but they still pay respects to Chester. They open it with their new single, new music video, new album announcement, new tour announcements. It just felt so invigorating and jubilant, that Linkin Park is back. Of course, it was a little bit polarizing at times because the new singer, I mean, she's very good in her own right. Of course, she can't replace Chester. And many people were grasping at straws and are reaching for things from her past. The way I see it, I'm like, do you like Linkin Park or not? Do you want more new Linkin Park or not? Do you want to see what other interesting creative endeavors Linkin Park can do or not? But that's the nature of it. Some people will like their decision and their direction or new music. Some will not like it. But I'm just saying, I mean, you're riding the current Linkin Park train, you're loving it, you're enjoying it. With their new album, it's a lot of hints and elements and styles of the past, but it's also stamping a new identity. The new singer Emily, she's putting her imprint on with her voice. Believe it or not, most, if not all, the songs on the new album, I'm feeling the album being called From Zero because Linkin Park, the band was called Zero, Xero, before it became Linkin Park. You got their heavy, fast, the Emptiness Machine song, Cut the Bridge, which is kind of thrashy, Heavy is the Crown, which is kind of like Numb and serves as a promotional single for some League of Legends event. Over Each Other. Personally, that song sounds kind of like something Hailstorm would do. Overflow is a bit more electronic and synthy. Two-Face sounds like one step closer. And I Give You Everything I Had is like a desperate, emotional scream at the end. And I really do like the song Good Things Go, which concludes the album. Not to mention 3 bonus tracks after that. Personally, of the 3, I liked Up From the Bottom the most. Yeah, personal rule for me is 35 minutes. I'm not going to cram or rush everything, but needless to say, Linkin Park was a big part of my life. It represented how I feel, it represented my taste, my mood, my identity, my style, my bonds, my perspective. It got me through some hard times. I remember listening to Iridescent whenever I went to bed. I featured a couple of Linkin Park songs at my wedding. A majority of the average person, they just know the first 2 albums, Hybrid Theory and Meteora. But I introduced my wife to pretty much the rest of their discography, and she couldn't believe it. She's like, wow, this is Linkin Park? I did not know they had this entire side to them. And it's generational too. It's very relatable. There are stories of parents taking their kids to Linkin Park concert, but of course the kid appreciates Linkin Park in a different way than the parents could. Sometimes their first concert is like the recent iteration of Linkin Park. But it's up to, I guess, the older Linkin Park fans to remind of what Linkin Park was, also to what Linkin Park is. I remember enjoying the Linkin Park tribute show after I finished all my internships, all my classes, pretty much the week before my graduation. They just happened to perform in that town. And I thought, oh my god, this might be the last Linkin Park experience I may ever have. But 7 years later, they were kind to us. They're going on tour, though their tour schedule is grueling. I hope they're able to handle it. But yeah, I highly recommend. If Linkin Park's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But just have an open mind and look through their discography, whether it's the old songs, the new songs, the music videos. I'm very sure there is some aspect of Linkin Park that anyone can appreciate, you know, the music, the lyrics, the hip hop, the singing, the melodies. Well, thank you for listening. See you next time. Bye.